Hi, I'm Matt here in Michigan.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. Today, Matt and I are taking a look back at the 1992 film A League of Their Own. This film is kind of a cult classic. It's got a very star-studded cast, but we're going to hit the major points. It stars Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Lori Petty, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, and it's directed by Penny Marshall. Penny Marshall also collaborated with Tom Hanks on the movie Big, so they have a working relationship.
Yeah, this movie cost $40 million to make and earned $132 million at the box office. It was well received by both audiences and by critics who pointed out the awesome cast and their performances. This movie has been preserved by the National Film Registry for its culturally, historically, and aesthetic significance. It's about the members of the All American Female Professional Baseball League during World War II. It's a fictional story about a real life league during the 1940s and beyond.
With baseball being a little bit of a hit and miss this year, thought it'd be fun to take a look back at this one and add it to our summer movie collection. It's definitely an interesting watch to go back and look at. I haven't seen it very much, so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the film. I just have seen it, once, probably all the way through, in passing here and there. One of the things that hit me right off the bat about this is the movie has aged pretty well. Like it's not necessarily something you would see made today, but it doesn't feel like it's overly old either.
A lot of these movies, too, when you're looking back at a previous time, like I was saying, this is looking at the 1940s. So as an audience, you kind of go, well, what we see in this movie may not match society as we see it today, but maybe that's how things were back in the 1940s. This movie, I believe, is a movie that appeals to like a wide audience. You said you haven't seen it in a while. I saw it a few times when I was a kid, but it's been a long time since I've seen this movie too. So I was watching, I would like remember different parts or different actors. I think the people that really stood out for me when I was younger were like Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell's characters. They were, a different character that kind of stood out from the other ones. And I think they're still pretty good characters today, though I think Rosie's stick or whatever you want to say in this movie, now older, got a little bit overused later.
Hey, will you shut up, Helen, all right?
Making him more upset, okay?
Really?
Come on.
I don't need it from Helen Toomey.
Maybe a little overused, maybe verging on annoying, but I think that's kind of what the character was going for. So if you're annoyed by her, then mission accomplished.
Eloquent to me, Ellen, so eloquent to me! Shake that one off now, shake that one off!
So this film starts out, and the two primary female characters really are Geena Davis and Laura Petty's characters, and their sisters. They work on the family farm, but they love baseball. They love playing baseball, and Geena Davis is the older sister, and she's just that much better. She's just one of the best female baseball players, and her sister's super jealous, and they're constantly fighting about it, and that's a theme you see throughout the film, and it culminates in a trade between the teams. They were on the same team for a big portion of the game or the movies, and then they get traded off. That friction is an interesting family dynamic. I liked how that played out throughout the film. You see that, especially if you have close age siblings. Of I feel like this is your fault. Like I can never measure up to you.
It's like at home. It's like if you're here, then I'm not here.
As a person who comes, I have an older sister, a younger brother. There's definitely some of that I can see in my own family relationship. So, like you said, it appeals to a wide band, and for me, that's one of the things that really hit home.
Oh yeah, I agreed. Lori Petty's character, she's always compared to her older sister Dottie in this movie, and it's like she's invisible. Nothing that she can do like stands out. Everything that she does is just compared to what her sister Dottie can do. And her sister Dottie is really good at baseball. This movie focuses on baseball, so that's really what we see a whole lot of in this, especially when it comes to the comparisons between the two. And that's a lot of that friction. We go to the trade. A lot of it is about the younger sister Kit actually be able to stand out on her own and actually go someplace where she isn't constantly compared to Dottie.
It is. It's an interesting thing. So, but on that same token, on the flip side, if Geena Davis's character doesn't go, Dottie doesn't go, then her younger sister Kit doesn't go at all, because the scout who originally comes, who is like the definition of a Chicago slimeball scout, you know,
Hey yourself.
hey, what's going on? You know, like Mortimer Mouse almost. Seriously, he's not even interested in Kit. He's like, I want your older sister. She only agrees to go if she can bring her younger sister along. She does so much to get her younger sister like into the league and actually being successful, and it's just not enough for Kit. But Dottie proves time and again, like, it's a game and it's only a game to her. She enjoys playing, but she could walk away at any time.
Yeah, she doesn't necessarily need the money. That's one of the things that they were presented to you earn. I think, what was it, like $75
$75 a week,
which is a lot more than they were making, milking cows at the farm. But yeah, I think a big part of this movie too, and a lot of good movies, sports movies don't just look at the sport. It's not really the sport that necessarily drives. This movie uses the sport of baseball to try and look at some of the social issues a little bit of the movie, even though I don't think it goes into real depth. It's kind of on the surface level on a lot of these, which we'll go into a little bit more. But it just kind of shows for like baseball and stuff, and that scout wasn't just looking for ball players. It wasn't like, hey, we need to put together a league of ball players just because all of the professional ball players are off fighting World War II. We need that entertainment factor
we
too.
Need gals.
We need gals. We need girls that look pretty and also conform to some of the societal norms or whatever. And I think that's another big part in this movie, when the league's already been going on, but people aren't filling in the stands. And there's that discussion like, well, we need to do more than just play baseball.
We can't just be good playing baseball, because people aren't coming out to watch women be good at baseball. They're coming out to watch women.
What if at a key moment in the game, my uniform bursts open and, oops, my bosoms come flying out? That might draw a crowd, right?
This film, even though it definitely looks back on the 40s with rose-colored glasses, it doesn't shy away from the sexism, but it doesn't try and make a point about the sexism. It's just there. It just is the way that it was in the 40s. And there's only one tiny, even little wink and a nudge spot in this entire film to the racism of the 40s. Mind you, all of these women are white. They're not trying to make a point with this. They're just trying to make a fun film to watch, and a wink, wink, nudge, nudge in the direction of, wow, look at how different society was in the 1940s, and look at how we, objectified women in the 1940s, but we're not going to poke the bear too much.
I think one of the most interesting ways they did that was with like the commercials, or almost like you see like the wartime.
Oh, the wartime
like
propaganda
updates
film,
and stuff.
yeah.
How they're having like the women like, oh, in the dugout they're like knitting and crocheting and stuff inside, like, for sure those women are not knitting and crocheting inside the dugout. But it's the whole idea how they have to
catch a foul ball, get a kiss.
Yeah, catch a foul ball, get a kiss kind of thing. But I mean, we even go to like the uniforms, how the uniforms aren't really like meant for like baseball. And I think it's good that the movie shows that the women sliding in these skirts, it's not that they're invincible. They're getting hurt by playing baseball, and it's like their uniform that's added to that pain. So it shows some of the struggles that these women go to in order to play the sport during that time.
In contrast to all of the glam and the glamour, you have characters like Rosie O'Donnell's character, and I don't remember the actress's name. She plays Marla. She's the not pretty character, basically.
And how about Marla Hooch? What a hitter!
And just like, listen, I raised her like a boy. I didn't know anything else to do, is what her dad says.
Don't make my little girl suffer because I messed up raising her.
Those are interesting dynamics in comparison to Geena Davis and Laura Petty's characters, who are and Madonna for sure, obviously, who are definitely like the very pretty women.
Fellas, keep your mitts to yourself. She's married.
There's a whole scene where they go through and they have, for lack of a better term, a beautician or a fixer go in and say, oh, do this, do that, cut her hair, fix her eyebrows. That's probably a little off-putting to me, having watched it. But I can understand what they were going for, and it's played up for comedy in this film. It's not played up for seriousness.
It's definitely played up for comedy. I would say a lot of these things that we see these women go through, it's kind of a contrast or trying to look at to build up like Geena Davis's characters. A lot of this is seeing how like you have to choose between baseball and like the home life, and it shows how those two kind of conflict. And with Geena Davis, I think the movie's kind of trying to say like, well, can she have both? You know, when Bob comes back from work, can she like go home and be the home wife and start a family and have kids and stuff? And can she also play baseball? Because a lot of times it's seen, especially her character, is that she can't do both. You know, she didn't choose. She says throughout the movie, like, basically because of Kit, that she joined the league and stuff. But everyone's trying to tell her, like, no, you actually do enjoy this. So it's kind of I wouldn't say necessarily growth, but Geena Davis's character trying to come to the realization of what it is that she actually likes and wants out of her life.
In juxtaposition of that, you have Hold on, I'll do that again. In juxtaposition to that, you have Tom Hanks's character, who's kind of a washed-up baseball player. He drunk himself out of major leagues. He says he wasted like the last 5 years of his career drinking. He can't serve in the military because he has no cartilage in his knee. So he's kind of just put in the situation of, I'm going to give you a chance by not Mr. Wrigley. Not Mr. Wrigley.
Mr. Harvey,
yes.
Have those
Mr.
awesome Harvey bars.
Those Harvey bars, yeah.
Mr. Harvey, like your candy bars, you're completely nuts.
He's a famous baseball player who's at the end of his career, and he's put in charge of managing this team, and he loves the game of baseball, but he has no interest in managing a team made up of women. I, for one, found the character unlikable, and it's funny because he has probably the most oft-quoted line in this entire film.
There's no crying! There's no crying in baseball!
But even at the end, yes, his character's kind of grown a little bit. He's stopped drinking so much. He gets to the point where he kind of enjoys what he's doing, and he wants to win. He gets the feeling of baseball back in. But I still didn't quite feel like he was a good person, even at the very end.
I think he does play his role well. I mean, you have a big name like Tom Hanks, even though there's quite a few big names in this film too. But I think that kind of shows too. You insert Tom Hanks and people are like, oh, we're going to see a movie with Tom Hanks. And the same thing, that's kind of how he's used in the movie too. His character, like Jimmy's this big baseball player, and he's just kind of brought in like, oh, you should watch this team because we got a former big name baseball player managing, his first what he calls his job is, I know what I'm supposed to do. I go out there and I tip my hat and then I sit in the dugout. Not really managing the team, or at least what he shows, but a lot of it I think goes back to a lot of things that we see with other characters as a build up Geena Davis and I wonder if he can't really be a mentor too much or whatever to Geena Davis unless he does clean up his act a little bit. And yeah, I agree with you. He is definitely made to look like a pretty deplorable person at the beginning, and I think they do such a well job of that. It's hard to really see him as too much of a big, positive character at the end, even though they do have a little bit of growth for him. Like you already mentioned that famous line that everyone talks about, and how his burst out at one of his players got him thrown out of the game. And then later on in like the playoffs, he's facing that same situation, and you see his face just kind of like, he wants to, kind of yell at her and stuff, but he shows a little bit that he has that self-control a little bit now.
Honestly, that is the spot where I was like, okay, finally, a little bit of actual growth out of him. Not just here's Geena Davis passing my Coke and taking his liquor away. Growth out of him, not forced growth from another character. Where he's like,
Still missing the cutoff man. Now that's something that I would like you to work on before next season.
and he says before next season because it's Game 7 of the World Series for these women. It's like before next season is today, and he is so trying to hold it together. Like, oh, because they let 2 runs in, they're now behind. Yeah, like that. That whole scene for me is probably one of the more golden things. I like that scene way more than I like the there's no crying in baseball in particular, even though it's the same woman in the same situation, just opposite. They only work with each other because they're both there. If you only had one, it wouldn't work. But because they're both there, it works.
Generally, I like this movie. It's not one that really stands out for me. It's a light movie that basically makes you smile and laugh a few times. Some of the characters, I wish they wouldn't just stick to their one dimension a little bit, even though they do give most of the characters backstories and you understand why they are the way they are, but kind of wish sometimes like Rosie and Madonna's character weren't so one-dimensional, and a lot of the movie had a little bit more depth. But other than that, this is a decent movie to watch, or when you're looking for something to watch and relax to.
Yeah, so especially if you are into baseball, there's a lot of baseball stuff in here. It is a lot about baseball. The other stuff that happens is important and it's fun. It's good to watch. But if you're a baseball fan, I think you'd like this movie. There's the signs and there's a lot of baseball lingo that goes on that probably goes over anyone's head who might not know what's going on in context to the game. Unlike our previously done baseball film Sandlot, which is like baseball's the backdrop, baseball's in the forefront in this one. So if you like these kinds of reviews, we have a whole ton of flashback reviews. Make sure to check out our channel. If you like this video, make sure to give us a like, a subscribe, and ring the bell icon if you always want to know when we're uploading. You can also check out our Facebook page. We'll always let you know what's going on the day before we actually post. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. Everyone have a great day.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. See you guys later. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.